Have you ever seen anything that's made you go, wow? Maybe it's some special effect in a film. You've just looked at it and gone, wow. Maybe it's some great sporting feat. Maybe you're a football fan and you've watched someone do some trick on the football field. Maybe a tennis fan, you've seen some incredible shot, or a golfer who's got a hole in one. Maybe a cricketer, a shot with the bat or a ball that they bowled. And you've just gone, wow. Maybe it's some feat of engineering, or maybe some view. I remember the first time I saw Niagara Falls. My wife is Canadian, and so we've had to go over to visit family and taken the opportunity to go and see this great waterfall. I just remember seeing it and going, wow. Well, if you want a wow moment, I'd encourage you to stick with us as we go through Mark chapter 4, verses 35 to the end of the chapter. Because here, Jesus does something simply amazing. If you want to follow along with the text but don't have a copy in front of you, just click on the link in the video description and it'll take you to an online Bible and the passage that we're looking at today. So where does it begin? Well, it begins with a trip on the sea. In verse 35, we read, that day when evening came, he said to his disciples, let us go over to the other side. Jesus and his disciples are by the Sea of Galilee. A great big lake about 80 or 90 miles north of Jerusalem. And Jesus wants to get to the other side. And rather than take all the time to go around the lake, he says, let's get a boat and let's sail across it. And while they're crossing the lake, there's a big storm. In verse 37, a furious squall, a powerful storm came up and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Now, the geography of the Sea of Galilee with the mountains around means that storms like this can come very quickly. And so suddenly, as they're crossing the lake, there is this powerful wind that blows. And the waves are so big that they're pouring over the side of the boat. And the disciples go into a wild panic. And really, I can't blame them. I think I would have been even worse than them. Stick me on a ferry going across the English Channel with just a gentle rolling sea, and I'm worried that ferry is going to capsize as it moves backwards and forwards. I can't imagine what I would have been like on this boat in this kind of a storm. What's amazing, though, is that many of these disciples were fishermen by trade. They would have grown up on that piece of water, in boats on that piece of water. They would have been used to the storms that would have come. But they recognized that this was a big one, and it was dangerous, and they feared for their life. So what happens next? Well, they wake Jesus up, and then he does something incredible. Verse 39, he got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, quiet, be still. Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. What? When we moved to the Fens, we decided to explore the area by going for some walks. My daughter was just 2 years old at the time, so she was in a pushchair, and we were going on a local walk, and it was a little bit windy. And I remember her in her pushchair. She didn't like the wind, and she was shouting at it, "Wind, go away! Wind, go away!" But it didn't. And really, we didn't expect it to, because that's not how the weather works. We don't speak and the weather listen. But that's what happens here. Jesus spoke, quiet, be still, and the wind and the waves calmed down. This passage ends with an important question. In verse 41, they, as the disciples, were terrified. Here, they're no longer terrified about the storm, they're terrified about Jesus. They were terrified and they asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." I'd encourage you to think about that question. Think about what Jesus has done here. What is the Bible saying about him? What are we being told about Jesus? Who is he that even the wind and the waves obey him? Well, next time we're going to look at another incredible thing that Jesus did. Hope you can join us as we continue on our journey through Mark's Gospel.